Oh, you ready, Rock?
Yeah, we're
Okay.
rolling.
So, yeah, Aaron and I always talk about kind of what do we want these calls to be about, and we started talking a little bit about referrals and the referral process. So, when talking about state to state referrals all over the country, and EXP just released a pretty good stack of new mandatory documents that are all around referral disclosure. And so kind of dug into that a little bit and what's driving that. So just want to kind of go over a current event that I think matters and it's going to change the way we do business. So in September, there was a big lawsuit that was filed against Zillow. And we see these from time to time. I feel like Zillow is always getting sued. But this one was around the Zillow Flex program. And essentially, what Zillow Flex is hey, we're not going to charge you up front, but we're going to have your team, it's usually teams, be a member of Zillow Flex. We'll give you leads. Once you close said lead, you'll pay anywhere from 33 to 40% on the back end. Okay. And what the lawsuit states is that this isn't disclosed to the consumer. And the lawsuit states that because of this, commissions are driven up to offset that referral. Okay. Now, there's a second piece of this lawsuit which says that we're also told Zillow Flex agent, I'm not one, but this is what the lawsuit says, that Zillow Flex agents are told to push clients to Zillow home loans. And this lawsuit says, hey, this is a clear RESPA violation, that we're getting kickbacks, which is essentially that by doing this program and not disclosing it, that it is a violation of RESPA. Now, I'm not a lawyer. I don't really, RESPA is very intricate. There's a lot of disclosure rules around RESPA. But Leo Pereira, who is EXP CEO, says, "Okay, we see what's coming because once you see a big lawsuit like this, we tend to see smaller ones." So he's saying we are going to over disclose, and what this has led to is a stack of 13 pages of paper that basically says anyone that is getting a referral, we need to tell the client. So if Nick Niehaus says, hey, TJ, I've got somebody in Dayton I want you to take, and I say, awesome, Nick, I appreciate it. We do a referral agreement for 25%. That used to be between us, kind of like Fight Club. You don't talk about it, right? Because it's none of the client's business. But now I need to go to my client and say, hey, Nick referred me. I am giving Nick a portion of my fee and I need to disclose that and have the client acknowledge that they understand that. So that's going to be one piece of it. And there's also a secondary piece where we're going to disclose an assigned thing on who we recommend, which means we've got to give a few mortgage options, we've got to give a few inspector options. So we're over disclosing. Now, NAR hasn't said we need to yet, but EXP is a little bit ahead of the game because it's coming, guys. This is the new normal. It's just over disclose. So that's kind of the lay of the land. And I'll let somebody else talk because that was a lot of words.
Hey, TJ, thanks for explaining that because I didn't understand all that. And that was a very good explanation. So thank you.
Man, I subscribe to Inman News, and it's I don't know what it's like, $15 a month, or it's an annual subscription. And the reason I do that is so that I can catch wind of this stuff as soon as it happens and find out, start reading more articles about it. But man, when that lawsuit came out against NAR about brokerages can't pay brokerages co-op fees anymore, the seller or the buyer have to pay the commission to the agent. That was the big one, right? That, like, yeah, we've seen lawsuits against NAR, we've seen lawsuits against brokerages and all this other stuff, but it seems like more and more since that came out, we're just seeing more and more stuff implemented to protect the consumer and inform the consumer. This is more than likely, this is like the tip of the spear, like this is going to happen, like brokerages, agents are going to have to disclose this stuff. The bigger of a deal we make out of this, the bigger of a deal the client's going to think it is. If we present this to the client as, hey, this is just how it's done, we're just making sure that you're informed on how it goes. This has been part of our real estate industry for years, and now you're brought into the conversation, so you get to kind of take a peek behind the curtain. As agents, a lot of times we can pay for leads, right? If I go out there and spend $6,000 on marketing, direct mail, and then I get a deal from it, well, I paid $6,000 to get that deal, or 2 deals, or 3 deals. It's really no different than marketing to agents around the country and building relationships with agents around the country. And then when they send you business, you pay them for their marketing help, right? It's the same thing. And we can break it down to clients like that if they really have pushback or questions. But at the end of the day, there's all sorts of different ways to get business in our world. And this way, it just kind of brings the client into the fold so they don't feel like money got exchanged and they weren't aware of it. It is kind of cool to see a company just like, hey, we see what's coming. We're going to go ahead and get out in front of it. So that way we don't end up on the lawsuit. TJ, do you want me to pull those up? Let me share those.
Yeah,
documents?
if that's okay. I mean, look, and I know not everybody's with EXP on this call. We can do it pretty quickly. It won't take long, but I think it's worth looking at. And odds are every broker is going to end up doing this. This is typically what happens. One does it, and then we all say, okay, if they're doing it, I'm going to do it because I don't want to be the one sued.
Yeah, and like EXP is just the first one that went. If you're not with EXP right now, this is just kind of catching things before they come about. So can you see this?
Yes.
You guys can see that? Okay.
Okay. You want me to walk through this a little bit?
You've looked at them more than I have. I've glanced through them, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So basically what this is saying is it's being very clear that you can use anybody that you choose. Now, a lot of us, all of us, I would assume say this, but some of us have this already in our kind of listing packet, right? Or buyer packet where we send this out and say, hey, here's a few of our recommended. The key here is the language. Say, hey, you can use anybody you choose. These recommendations are based on past client satisfaction, which basically means like we're not being paid to give you these recommendations. And then we want to have 3 of every one. Now you can have them in your order. You can let people know, hey, I would really try number 1 first. That's typically where we go. But they want to make it very clear that why we're doing what we're doing. So we're going to have to offer 3 of everything if we're going to fill this out. Now, if you don't make recommendations, you don't have to fill this out. Now, I would argue you should be making recommendations. Jesus. We know that, it's an 80-20 industry. And if you get with the 80, you're going to be in a tough spot. So this is something that I'm going to build into basically my once a listing goes under contract, the follow-up email. We're going to go through this. And we're going to have all this figured out. And then the client is actually going to sign this. Now, why? The reason is because nobody can come back and say, you made me use this inspector. You made me use this lender. We're going to have proof that we talked this over. It says that you can use anybody that you want and you signed it. So this is the ultimate CYA document. And all of these are, to be 100% honest.
I'll drop in here too and say, this is a beautiful thing, because I can see myself using this particular form and then dropping a 3rd page on this form that has my vendors list. Hey, here's lenders and title companies and home warranty and everything. However, here's our roofer. It says even here at the bottom, additional inspection and related services. Here's our roofer. Here's our pool inspector. Here's our concrete person. Like, use this to show value. You don't have to go out there and search for somebody. We've already vetted these people out. We've had good experiences with these people. But you're welcome to use whoever you want to. Now, I will say, like, home warranty, I know there's some companies out, home warranty and title. I know there's some joint ventures out there where, a title company or a warranty company will pay an agent. That should be disclosed here. If you put a title company in here and say, your agent may be compensated by this title company if you use them, then you've gone full disclosure.
And to take that a step further, Aaron, if you're in a joint venture, that you really should have an affiliated business disclosure that's been approved by EXP.
Or whatever brokerage you're at. Yeah.
Or whatever brokerage you're at, that's been written by an attorney is really what we were suggested to do. So from EXP. Okay, so these are going to be your typical, and if you go down there, and this is all the pretty standard stuff. You're going to see a highlighted section where the change is going to be. Keep going down. There you go. Okay, so you're going to see there's going to be, and this is basically the language on all of our contracts moving forward. There's going to be a referral fee disclosure that says if this box is checked, we are obligated. The listing broker is obligated to pay a referral fee to blank. And then that's going to have the amount. So if that's a percentage of compensation, if that's a flat fee, it's that simple. So this is just going to be an extra paragraph on all of our documents that's going to CYA. Client can never say, well, I never knew that, you got a portion of that. It's all spelled out. And as Aaron said, it is as big of a deal as you make it. If you make it a big deal, it's a big deal. If you say, hey, when we get referred, what we do is we give a portion of our fee back for that introduction. I'm grateful that we have it. And we just want to disclose that so you know exactly what's being done. And they say, okay.
Yeah, and this goes for any brokerage. So you mentioned Zillow being part of that lawsuit, and that's kind of what kicked all this stuff off. But there are other examples. Like I know that there's some agents out there with different companies that use Dave Ramsey as a referral source. He's got his own brokerage. He receives referral fees, and his brokerage will be in that form as well. And right now, this only applies to EXP, but I can bet that it'll follow with a lot of different brokers out there until it becomes mandatory.
Yeah. So Opcity, Realtor.com, Zillow, Dave Ramsey, all of they all need to be disclosed now, not just broker to broker. So it's going to be a little different for a little bit, but it is what it is. Any questions that are coming up? Okay. I thought it was pretty straightforward.
TJ.
Yeah, go ahead.
That very first document that you showed with like the title companies, lenders, all that on it, is that going to be a required form from EXP where they're going to, I mean, even if you didn't make any recommendations, are they still going to have you have that signed that there were no recommendations made, or are the paperwork police looking for that? I guess is my question.
That's a very good question. But even like, so here's my thought on that. Like if you write in a title company on your deals, like that's enough. Like you have to have this form signed. So my guess is everybody's recommending someone.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. If you're saying like, hey, I literally don't recommend anyone, I'm not sure. But I think most people are going to end up using it because you almost have to if you're recommending anyone. It's a good question.
If I were to bet, I would say this would become mandatory, because if there is any sort of mention of a lawsuit, like your brokerage can show that they've covered their butt, and by requiring it, that kind of covers it. So
yeah, and even if it's blank, that top part's pretty important because it says basically you're not required to use anybody. You do use whoever you want. The decision is yours. So I think even if everything else is blank, it's important for them to acknowledge that.
Yep.
Do you all remember doing, I haven't done it for a long time, but years ago when I did work with relocation companies, and you'd go on a listing appointment that the relocation company lined up for you, and you were not allowed to talk about the fee that you were giving back to the relocation company.
Oh, yes.
So this changes all that.
Yeah, and that was actually mentioned, Amy. Online, people mentioned that, like, what happens with Cardis? Because that's one of their rules. I will say, based on this, there is absolutely no way that we can get around disclosing that. So they're going to have to change their policy, or they're going to have to only work with a brokerage that isn't doing disclosure, which isn't going to last. So,
I just recently did a Procter and Gamble relocation. It was actually a past client of mine. It was 48%, which is nuts. There was no disclosure to my client who's used me multiple times that, only got paid 52% of that. So,
Jeez.
So I will like being able to tell them, hey.
Yeah. Especially when they want you to cut your commission.
Oh, yeah. And this is another reason why you're charging 4 on the listing side. I probably should
Yeah.
have that, but yeah.
Well, and Diana, that right there is why this is the issue, because people are bumping up their fee to offset that, which they're saying this is not fair to the consumer because like, right? Like
It's
why?
not
Why is
fair
that?
to the
It's
consumer.
not. I'm with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of those relocation companies, I don't know how much of that. I remember what Cardis was 42%, and in some cases I'm hearing 48. I mean, a lot of times they use those fees that they acquire to help pay for storage and moving and closing costs and that sort of stuff. But I don't think the client knows that it comes from the real estate agent. It's coming out of yeah. They see on the closing statement that there's $500,000 house, there's a $15,000 or $18,000 commission being paid, but they don't know that a lot of that's going back to their relocation company and it's just not disclosed. And I think with the upcoming litigation stuff that's happening, if the relocation companies continue to press on non-disclosure, that's going to expose them pretty hard to these lawsuits.
Mhm.
And ultimately, I think, look, there once in a while going to be an uncomfortable conversation. Like all he did was introduce me, right? We're going to have those. But if we look at the big picture, this does two things. One, it's going to protect us, which I think is super important because we might be in the most highly litigious arena currently in the country. And the second piece is anything that makes our industry more professional is a plus, right? Like there's been times in real estate, even in the last 10 years, where it's a little wild west. And we notice that especially on the people that are not doing this every day and doing it at a high level, the more that we professionalize our industry, the better it is for the professional agents. And I think this is a great example of that.
Yeah, we'll get through the rest of these documents, and then we'll actually talk about using referral sources as a source of business. So hang on tight, guys. I know some of this stuff is maybe irrelevant to you at this point or what have you, but the good stuff's coming.
Yeah, and I don't know if there's that much more to share here. If you just walk through them real quick, Aaron, you're going to see these are all of our existing documents essentially with that added language. Okay, so you'll see it highlighted. So we can kind of just pound through this, but this is going to be listing documents, tenant documents, buyer documents. Everything's going to have that additional language. And then that main one, which is going to be anybody that we refer is just based on past client success. And you have the right to use anyone you want. So I think we can kind of close this chapter down if you want.
One thing that this disclosure is going to do is that I believe that if I'm referring somebody to an agent in Florida or Colorado or whatever, I'm going to do a better job of vetting that agent out because I have the disclosure has to happen. And the conversation can be like, hey, your agent found me through a very strict vetting process. They made sure that I lined up with your values, I lined up with your timeline, and that I was able to serve you. So it's good that I'm working together with the agent who referred you over to me. So again, you control the narrative on this. The disclosure is probably going to need to happen at every brokerage eventually. But the narrative is like, hey, we're professionals and this is how professionals operate. So last thing I'm going to say on the buyer broker, so here's a single property agreement that's in there too. Single property BBA. And there's referral fee disclosures in here. One thing that I'm going to stop the screen share really quick. One thing that I've started to do, and I find that when this thing came out, what was it, August of 24, we were required to start having these BBAs signed before every showing. One thing that I've started to do is I noticed that I would do like a 3-month or 6-month or a 12-month BBA for a buyer, but I realized they were all expiring at different times, and I would lose track of when my BBA was expiring for one buyer, and then I'd go out there and show them a house. I'm like, oh my gosh, like we were past, so I'd send them another BBA to have them sign it. I've started using January 31st and July 31st as my expiration dates. So that way, because I keep a buyer pipeline, all my buyers that I'm working with in my buyer pipeline, I put in there, have they signed a BBA or not? And then I know that on January 31st, anybody that I have looking for homes right now and they're still looking, I just need to reach out to them and have them re-sign one. And then that way there's a solid date that I know I'm going to have to review all my buyers, and I don't have to go through there and worry about something expiring. So business practices, put some dates on your calendar, and so January 31st is on my calendar, renew all buyer contracts, but 2 weeks ahead of that, I go in there and start having conversations for my buyers to renew their stuff. Hopefully that's helpful to you guys and keeps everything more organized. Let's get into referrals as a business source. TJ, what do you think?
Oh. Yeah, so this is an area where I think a lot of agents just aren't doing this at a high level, and I think that it's fairly low-hanging fruit. So, one thing, especially if you're in a big national brokerage, like there is such a great opportunity that you get to share that you have business partners across the country. And that doesn't have to mean that they're on your team. It just means you have business partners across the country. And we do a good job, I think, of telling the story that we have people everywhere. And what that does is it gets people coming to us to say, hey, do you know anybody in X? Florida. Yeah, we have people all over Florida. What part? And if we don't talk about that, nobody's going to think of us. But if we do, that can look like 5, 10, 15 deals a year that you're referring out, that you're not having to do that much on outside of vetting and finding a great agent, which can take as little as a half an hour if you do it at a high level. So one thing I want to push people to do is tell that story, especially on social media, where you're talking to people all over the country. Video is a great way to do it. And also share the successes. So when you do help a client in Florida, Tennessee, Michigan, make a reel and then get that out there so that people think of you when they think of real estate, not just Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky, Dayton, wherever you are real estate. So that's the beginning of that talk. And then I think we should talk about kind of how to vet an agent.
Well, one thing I'll point out too before we get into vetting agents is that here's something that I've toyed with. And so don't everybody go do this at once, right? Because this turns into something that it just looks like every agent took a class and we're all going to post the same thing, right? But if you go into these large real estate groups on social media that have, let's call it 150,000 real estate agents across the country, and you went in there and you posted and say, hey, I'm looking for an agent who's from Cincinnati, but doesn't live in Cincinnati anymore. I'd love to network with some agents that are originally from here that operate around the country. You get a list of 15 to 20 agents, then they might live across the country, Phoenix or Idaho or wherever, Florida. And you set up a time to talk to them. Like, hey, where'd you grow up in Cincinnati? Do you still have family here? Do you still have friends here? I'd love to work on a referral basis with you. And we can even do some co-branded marketing. If you have a database of people here in Cincinnati, I can put them on my mailer list. I can kind of market us as co-branded so that they see you as the source and they see me as the boots on ground here in the area. And you can actually use that as a business source. Just imagine adding 150 people to your database that you don't know right now, and you're leveraging the relationship to start creating some good feelings there. And then you both get paid on the referral basis when it happens. If you go on vacations, right? Like I know Sarasota, Florida is called Cincinnati of the South, or at least I've heard of it called that before, because a lot of people who move down to Florida, or maybe they snowbird down there, a lot of people from this area for some reason will pick that area. So if you put some feelers out there, let's say that you vacation to Florida, doesn't matter what part, you can go down there and schedule half a day to visit a few of these agents, have coffee with them, talk about business, learn about lead generation, and just shoot the breeze. Talk to your CPA, because if you're spending part of your vacation marketing to other agents in the country for referrals, is it possible that you could write off part of that trip, part of that travel as a business expense because you went down there and actually worked part of the time? I guess your CPA may argue, was that the whole purpose of your trip? But I'm not a CPA. That's between you and your accountant. But those are ways that you can build relationships. And now we're going to talk about vetting agents so that you know you've got the right business partner that's sending you business. TJ, you had some ideas on that.
Yeah, and another thing, like if you think about this part of the country, a lot of people vacation the same places, right? So tell me if you know somebody that vacations in Destin, Hilton Head, Lake Cumberland, um, Gatlinburg, Michigan in the summer. People go up to Leland, Michigan. They go up to the lake. So we know where people go. If we tell that story and we have an agent there, all you have to say is, "Hey guys, I've just partnered with an amazing agent in Hilton Head. And we are looking for people that are currently looking for vacation property. We know that a lot of Cincinnati people are going down there, and we want you to have somebody awesome, ready to rock when and if you're considering, be it a short-term rental, be it a long-term rental, or just a vacation home for you and your family." Like these are cool conversations, and that's also going to help your algorithm. People are going to find you by accident if you're telling this story. So a couple of things, and I'm going to be honest on how I used to do this and how dumb it is. So let's say somebody told me, "Hey, TJ, we're looking in San Antonio, Texas." I would Google San Antonio, Texas realtor. 3 of them would pop up and I'd call them. That was it. And I'd say, "Hey, man, I've got a referral. Would your team be able to handle it?" And they'd say, "Yep." And then I'd freaking pray, man. And I'd say 50% of the time it went not well, and 50% of the time it went well. So then I changed. Then I thought, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask people in my network, "Do you know somebody?" Okay. And then I realized that just because people know someone, that doesn't help me either, because that goes bad. So I've changed to what I do. So here's what I do, and you can do some version of this. Number one, I look up in EXP. Now, this is EXP. You've got this in your brokerage too. In the EXP production leaderboard. That's where I start. This is in Okta or EXP Enterprise, whatever they call it. And then I look by that city and I see who's doing the business in that city. So I can look at teams, I can look at individuals, and that's just up to your taste. If you prefer an individual, cool. If you prefer a team, that's fine too. You can separate it. So then I'm going to get a list of the people that are producing at a high level. Now, is it always true that top producers are going to be great agents? It's not, but man, I'll take my odds. I'll take my odds that 95% of top producers are pretty darn good agents. So once I have 2 or 3 high producing agents, then I'm going to go to their social media and I'm going to see what they're about, who they are, and I'm going to try to find out, do they match my client's vibe? Are they big? Are they loud? Are they a little bit more reserved? I want to find somebody that mirrors my client's kind of energy. Once I've got that narrowed down, so now I've got, let's say, 2 people, I'm going to call both of them and I'm going to say I have a potential referral. Because if I don't like them, or if I don't feel like it's a good fit, it was potential, it didn't come together. But I'm going to interview them for about 15 minutes. I'm just going to talk to them about business. And I just want to know kind of how they do business, what their availability is, what do they do when they're out of town. I want to learn about their practices. And then if I think it's a good fit, I'm going to set up an interview with my client. And usually I'm going to say, I want you to talk to both agents. Now, if they do or don't, that's fine. But I want them to have options so that if they don't like one, I've still got a foot in the door for the other one. That practice has crushed. I've yet to have, knock on wood, a negative referral experience when I do those steps. And it's way better than just Google, because man, that was a disaster.
What so there's a lot of producing agents on here. What questions, if you're sending a referral out of the area, what questions, other than some things that TJ mentioned here, what questions would you ask an agent to make sure it's a good fit for the client that you're sending?
I asked them if they would be open to keeping me updated throughout the process with the client.
What else?
You can even ask just general interests. Are these people going to mesh, personality wise? Obviously, with not going into anything super personal, but kind of music, sports, something like that.
Yeah. And I think TJ touched on it too, is like getting to know your client a little bit and finding out, like, is my client a veteran? Are they into dogs? Do they have kids? Does the person, like the person that I'm sending to this area, is school district highly important? And does the person who I plan to send them to, are they up to speed on the area of town where my client wants to be? Like, I know, like, for example, there's a guy, Levi Lassick. I follow all his YouTube stuff, and he hits pretty much every community around Dallas, Texas on his YouTube channel. He knows a little bit about a lot of these areas, but if I have a client going specifically to a certain area, is the person I'm sending them to, do they know the end? Like, you know what? That street over there is a lot farther from the park, and you told me that you wanted to be close to the park and the school and the library and everything. So I'm going to recommend that you guys stay south of Main Street so that you're going to be able to walk like you told me. Now I'm willing to open it up, but so an agent who really knows the area like the back of their hand, because what you don't want is to send your person over there and then the person's just opening the door and they say, well, what restaurants are close by? And they're like, I don't know. This is the first time I've been to this neighborhood. I have no idea. You want them to be knowledgeable.
I also think this is such an important reason to be making video, because I think this is going to be, for me, the easiest way to search and get to know an agent is trying to find their social media and watching video. So if you're not making videos, that they're not going to get you. There's not going to be any connection. So like, I beat this dead horse constantly.
Well, and that's a key point too, because if somebody says, hey, I got a client moving to Fort Mitchell, Kentucky, right? They're going to be working in Cincinnati, but they're telling me that they've got family that lives in the area and Fort Mitchell's really where they want to be. Do you have videos or a blog post or something out there about that particular area? If you look at the top, I don't know, pick the top 5 areas in your state, right? Ohio, Kentucky, wherever you're at. Pick the top 5 areas and record videos on those and tell the camera what makes that area special. What is it? Close to hospitals? Is it close to shopping? Is it close to a downtown working center? Is there a Fortune 500 company that people work for around there, like Procter and Gamble or Kroger or whatever? Like, speak to what makes that area special and why people move here. And when somebody like TJ goes searching in, Memphis, Tennessee for a client who's moving down there for work, he may find that video and like, man, this person really understands what they're talking about. I'm going to give them a call. And that's just going to open you up to more opportunities. One thing I'm going to mention too, because I'm looking right at Brett Slusher. Brett does commercial real estate. And a lot of commercial real estate agents don't do residential, and a lot of residential agents couldn't handle a commercial transaction if it fell in their lap. So find your preferred commercial person in your local area. Maybe they specialize office space, warehousing, retail, whatever that is, and form a bond with them. Go to lunch once a quarter and talk about business and talk about, the challenges that everybody's facing in commercial or residential. And, you have a commercial client that pops up. You can start marketing for commercial deals, because if somebody buys a $7 million commercial building, think about that referral check. It's probably bigger than any residential check you're going to get just on a referral basis. So, and I'm sure Brett would love to have a $7 million, deal for commercial fall in his lap. And you guys can partner on it, work on it together, and make the introduction. So, commercial agents are a great source of referrals, because usually they don't want to tiptoe around residential. It's just too emotional for them, and not enough black and white. And a lot of residential agents have no business operating in that space.
Yeah, and we see all the time on the inner brokerage Facebook pages and stuff, like, can anybody do commercial? Like, we kind of just like throw it out to a residential agent that's like tiptoed in it. And it's really, again, like, that's not the best practice. Like, find an expert, man. I wouldn't want somebody to find me that way. Like, has anybody ever sold a house? Like, find an expert, build a relationship, and refer these deals out. And if a high producing commercial agent, you don't think they know people that are buying and selling homes? These are influencers, right? It's a tough business. They're going to know people to kind of scratch your back on the other side.
Yeah. And the other thing I think would be helpful is, I know every single person on this group probably identifies as a private investigator in some way, shape, or form, whether it's Facebook stalking or some sort of internet searching. But I remember, man, it must have been like 10 years ago, there was a chart that came out. And what we were looking at specifically was people who move to Cincinnati, what markets do they move here from? And there was, I forget what county it was, but it was a suburb of Chicago. And this suburb of Chicago had more people per capita relocate from that county to Cincinnati than any other place in North America. And there was probably a top 10 list on where people come from that relocate to Cincinnati. Well, is it possible to find out where people are relocating to Northern Kentucky or Cincinnati or whatever your area is? Is it possible to find out where these people are coming from and then find the top 10 agents in that market and then reach out to them? Who gives you a good feeling? Spend a day prospecting these agents in that county and say, hey, I operate here. A lot of people from your area move here. I'd love to form a relationship with you so that we can trade some business back and forth. And the people who move here probably still know people in your area that I'd love to send business back that way. So I don't know if you guys are good at investigating that stuff. I'll probably go to AI and go online and just see if there's any charts out there on where people move from and to, because that would really help agents like hone in on a specific market if you're looking for business sent here. Other thoughts on relocation business building stuff, whether you're vetting an agent, whether you're trying to find the right agent. TJ mentioned Google was one of his, and then he goes into a company specific database and finds the producers. What other ways out there can you guys think of that might be something that you've used before?
Well, I will say, sorry, I know I'm talking a lot. But we see people in our market that are like very involved in, let's say, agent leadership, the AACs, all these kind of councils. That's a great way. And then if you go to these national events, which I don't do for personal reasons, but if you go to, EXP Con, you go to these big events, and every brokerage has them, right? KW had big events, Family Reunion. You go to these events, and that's a great way to get in front of people and connect you with where you work. If you stay put, you don't do video, you don't interact, nobody's going to think of you. They're going to think of the 20 other agents that are doing this at a high level.
Yeah, and then there's NAR conventions, there's Inman conventions, there's the Tom Ferry, Mike Ferry stuff. There's there's all sorts of networking opportunities there. One thing that we don't talk about a whole lot anymore, and I'm looking around. Maybe you guys remember the CRS designations that the NAR used to do, and there's SRES, the Senior Real Estate Specialist, and then there's I don't know. There's all sorts of designations. Those people operate all around the country. So if you specialize in senior help, like you're helping out senior citizens, you're helping people with distressed properties and that sort of stuff. If you have a niche, find people who do those niches around the country, and then you can call them, hey, you can share business ideas. You're not competitors anymore. You're there to help share what's working in your market. What are you guys doing in your market? And then form that bond. It's 10:41. We're about to wrap it up. Questions from you guys on either the documents that we covered, the lawsuit, the impending changes that might be coming to our industry, or just referral business in general. Brett, I hope people send some commercial business your way, brother.
Yeah, I was gonna say thanks for the shout out, but just throw a story out there. We had a Huff agent not long ago. I was just catching up to see how she was doing, and she's like, "Yeah, my mom, because her mom's selling a house, it was like 900 grand house. Like, how's that going?" She's like, "Good. We got that Thanksgiving. My stepdad, they're getting some more office space stuff like that." I was like, "Oh, are you helping out the office space?" She's like, "No, I don't know what I'm doing." So it's like, "Hey, you want to make an extra 2 grand?" So we're helping them uh look for some office space. So if you guys ever hear of anybody like you're just talking to people, they own their business. It's just another way to reach out to clients and make an extra couple $1,000s. If you hear that they have their own business and they might be out of space or they're hiring, always a great question if they're out there is, how's business and how things are going, so you can land another referral opportunity.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. There's when we talk about reaching out to our sphere of influence for residential business, people move every, I don't know, what is it, like 11 years now? It used to be every 5 to 7. Now it's 11 because people are holding on to that 3% interest rate. But some of these people, you could just ask a question like, "Hey, I had a great conversation with a commercial agent the other day. do you know anybody who rents space or owns commercial space that I could make a great introduction to? Because I really like the way that this guy operates. And in case you guys are thinking about leasing or buying or selling, like, it's a great connection to have. All you're doing is offering to make a connection. You're not trying to, ask for anything uncommon. So,
Yeah,
Hey,
Brett, your
oh,
website says Northern Kentucky. Are you licensed in Ohio as well?
yeah, we do. I do Ohio and Indiana, so I'll do all
Okay.
three. And then, yeah, just to piggyback off of that. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. Yeah, man, we do Kentucky, Ohio, Indiana. Sorry, I was trying to remember what you were saying before.
all good. Cool. All right.
Oh,
It's 10. Go
yep, I
ahead.
thought of it. Also, if you know, like, if you're gonna reach out to somebody in sphere of influence just to see how the business is going, if you know that they have a business or in that area, don't hesitate to reach out to us. I mean, we pull listings all day, just to see what's available. So if you need it as a conversation starter, like, hey, 30-acre plot in Dry Ridge just came available. I know it's zoned for something in your business. Like, is that something your company's looking for? Like, you guys can leverage our stuff to, use it as like a touch point for anybody in your database. We don't mind at all.
What's your phone number, Brett?
Here, I'll go ahead and put it in there in the chat. I saw your.
Beautiful.
Yeah, Brett and I are talking a little bit later today. I got a client looking for some commercial space, and I told him, I said, I've been meaning to reach out to you about this, but I got something for you. Last thing, I'm gonna close with this, if you guys are cool with it. This call every single Monday is called the Momentum Mastermind, and momentum is something that isn't easy to get. You actually have to take action, and you got to just keep working at it and consistency. And if you think about what's common to happen to us in our industry this time of year, is we can kind of fall into a trap of complacency. There's not much going on. It's cold outside. Whatever. There's excuses just flow like crazy this time of year for whatever reason. And my encouragement is going to be, find that thing that gets your feet hitting the floor every day, that causes you to keep taking action. There's so many agents that are going to sit back in the wintertime and just chill out because things aren't crazy busy for them. They're just going to relax. And this is your chance to ramp things up, keep that foot on the gas pedal, keep things moving. This is your chance to take some market share. 2026 is, there's rumors that it's going to be a 14% increase. I don't know how they came up with that number, but NAR's chief economist said that it's going to be a good year. Don't sit back and decorate your Christmas tree 15 times during the month and not take action, having conversations with people, because they also need to hear that the market's going to pick up next year. And that's the anticipation. So, yeah, this is the momentum call, and you're here to keep that momentum moving. All right. See you guys next Monday, 10 o'clock. We'll put the topic out there ahead of time. Go out there and crush it this week. See you in a week. See you guys.
Thanks, Aaron.